Hi everyone, this is PCRT here. Today we are going to do a little bit of Python scripting here. Now, first thing I have to tell you is that English is really not my first language. So if I make any mistakes, please let me know as I'm still learning. Thank you. Now let's get started. First thing we need to know is that how to access Python console in Blender. Let's go right click on the edge of it, choose vertical split, size should be fine, and then click on this icon here, turn to Python console here. Now this comes very handy if we want to test some command before we put all these commands together into a Python script. This is very easy. Let's see. If I want to get the selected object in Python, you can simply type in bpy. Now, almost every command start with bpy. That's the way you access Blender data. Bpy dot context dot active object, and it returned this bpy dot data objects cube, as we only selected this cube object. Now let's select another one and test this command again. Go to active this Python console here, hit up arrow key. It'll just return the last command that you type in. Hit enter. Now the object changed to camera. Next thing what we're gonna do is that let's select this cube here, hit in. What if I want to access this location information here? Let's simply right click on it and copy data path. A data path is simply the date that you select, the date of that object that you selected. Alright, let's up arrow again. Now active object is this cube here, and then we we add another dot, right click, paste, object location. It'll just return this object, this location data. Okay, so let's see. It's at 0, 0, 0 position. Let's see, how do we change this position? Simply we go location, up arrow, last command equal to vector. Let's see, I want to move x axis 3 and y0, z0. Hit enter. As you can see, it changed this object's location to this value I gave it to it. All right, now before we start coding, let's take a look at what does this add-on do. Basically, we create an add-on that shows here. Let's press N, and this is a parameter that we can change. Let's see, we change to 3. Basically, it creates an animation from object A, move it to, let's see, this empty place. We select this object and then shift select this one, and we generate animation. Basically, it moves from that place to here in 3 seconds with keyframes from translate, rotation, scale informations, and then it'll move to the last frame if you check this. And then let's jump into coding. All right, let's go to desktop. We create a new directory. We call it test add-on. We're going to need to create a new text document. Now, you do need to check the box from the view and file name extension, because we're going to change that extension to Python extension py. First file we're going to need to create it. It's called underscore init underscore. Remember, 2 underscores .py, and we're going to copy capitalize. The next one, we are going to call it test addon underscore op.py. And we'll have one more test addon dot panel. In it, basically initialize our add-on and register operator and panel. These are the basic files that you need to create one add-on. Operator and underscore op. The name, you don't have to be this, just underscore op. You would easily see, oh, this file is for an operator. An operator basically means where all the magic happens here. We put all the functions here to manipulate Blender objects. And the panel, of course, it's just a panel that we see in Blender here. How does it look like? And the operator, this operator files, basically it shows as a button. You click on this button, the operator gets executed. All right, now I'm using Visual Studio Code. Let's right click. All right, we are going to modify this file first. First thing first, we're going to import BPY. And then we're going to create a class. Test. Okay, we're going to name it test addon underscore ot underscore operator from inherited from bpy.types operator. Basically, we're going to name our class test addon underscore ot underscore. This is a must. This is a must. You must have an underscore ot underscore in your class name. Oh, I'll change this to capitalize. Okay, now let's change the name. We will call it test addon label. We'll call it create animation. This name, basically it shows here. It shows here. Actually, I'm not sure it shows here. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't matter. We'll just call it create animation. And next one, we'll call it description. We'll call it a simple test addon. What we're going to do next is we are going to create a function called execute. Self context. An operator will have a execute function. Basically, if you click this button here, it'll execute the code below here. All right. So in order to let this add-on work, we're going to need to select two objects. So let's check a little bit. If length of bpy.context.selected objects equaled 2, if user select 2 objects, then we execute the functions below. We'll pass. We're going to create if user didn't select 2 objects, we will give it an arrow. We'll give it an arrow. Self report arrow. you must select two objects. Okay, and then we will return cancel. Canceled. Basically, it just this execute. This operator failed to execute. All right, let's dive into here. Oh, if everything works well, we just return finished. Great. Let's save it, and then we're gonna create object 1. We're gonna get two objects. Object 1 is the first that user selected, and then object 2 here. Object 1, how do we get object 1? Basically, we get from the selected objects list. It's first one here. Let's change context. Object, the first one. The first one you can use it 0. Now the second one we can use is number 1. Next object. Well, unfortunately, this we will not sure that this one is the first one that user selected. We have to make sure this code works. Now let's check. We've already checked that user selected two objects in the Blender. We just make sure that the first one in the list is not the active one. It's not the active one. The first one, you must, if you want it to work, we'll just let the first one move to the second one. But if the active object is first one, then it won't work. So if we check if the active object is the first one, then we will swap these two objects. Then it'll work as we expected. All right, let's check if the active object is our object number 1. Object 1. Then we will swap these objects. We don't want to be the active object. Basically means the last user selected or the current active selected object. Then we'll swap it. Now it'll work as expected. Now before next step, I will explain a little bit more about this part. Now let's go back to Blender. Let's see if okay, let's move back a little bit. Okay, now let's select this one and then select this one. Shift select this one. Then that means we move from this sphere to this cylinder. Now let's use the select object code to see in this list. Active object is cylinder. Active object is cylinder. Now let's take a look at the selected objects list. The first one is sphere, as in the code here, selected objects. And the second one is cylinder here, number 1. Now, what if I select this sphere and then I select this object, or let's select this one up this sphere and then shift select this light here, and then we check the selected object list again. Select object, the first one is light. Well, we wanted to move from the sphere to the slide. However, the select objects, this list, it doesn't comes with a order in it. It changed a lot. Now, in the selected object list, we'll check current active object. Let's check the active object now. The active object is light, and the first one, the number 0 object is light. So if we check this active object here, and active object, if the active object is equal to the number 0 object in the selected objects list, then we will swap these objects here. We will basically we change object 1. Currently object 1 is light, right? Basically we change object 1 to sphere and object 2 to light. And you can just change here. That's why we add this this code here to make sure the first one and the last one is in the correct order. So let's continue. And next, we want to add a property group. A property group, basically, it shows in the panel something we can change, in the animation time we can change, and the checkbox. Basically, it is a boolean and stuff like that. All right, let's create a property group. If we want to create a property group, basically we have to import something. Let's from bpy.types import property group. All right, we create a property group class. We'll call it animation properties. Inherited from property group. So we will have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will have 5 properties. The first one, we'll call it animation time. That shows here. Okay. So we'll give it name. Animation time is an int property. It's an integer property, just a number. We'll give it a name. Animation time. We'll give it a description. How long does it take? That's good. Okay, we'll change to animation in seconds. Default value would turn it to, how about 3 seconds? Minimum number is 1. The max number is 100 maybe. Done with the first property. Now let's add another animation, a property. It's called, let's see, it's called translate. Enable, what do we call it? How we call it? Enable translate. It will be a checkbox, so it's a bool property. name, we call it, let's see, translate. And the description, we'll call it enable translate. That's okay. And a default would turn into true. Good. Next, we will call it enable rotation. Still a bold property. Name, call it rotation. Default will turn into true. And next one, we will call it enable scale. Bold property as well. Let's make sure this spells right. Good. Enable scale. Default still true. And then the last one is called a last frame. Default default still true. All right, we did finish this part. Let me see, everything's working perfectly. Okay, so now how do we get it here? Basically, this animation properties group, and this property group, we will register to the scene that we can use, but still we can just call it here. Let's get the animation properties. Animation properties equal to scene dot animation properties. Animation properties. I'll explain this a little bit later. All right, let's get that attribute. If animation properties dot user enable location, enable translate, I guess I call it. Enable translate. If user enable translate, we will give a keyframe object to object 1, keyframe insert. We will insert a translate keyframe. Now remember, we did get the data path from here, so we'll call it data path equals location. And if let's copy paste it. We have this one is a rotation, and this one is a scale. We'll change it here. A rotation here. Rotation here. Data path should be rotation. And next one, we will change it to enable scale. Insert data path is scale. This part is different. It's not just simply rotation, it's rotation Euler. Okay, let's go to the next place. After we add a keyframe to current position, current animation position, we will have to move this object to this object's location. We'll simply do something like this. Object 1 dot location equal to object 2 dot location. This will do the trick. Okay, so we have to know the length of the frame. So let's get into here. We can see the frame rate is 24 here. So it's very easy to calculate how many frames do we want to move. First thing, we get the length of animation. We simply get this time here in our add-on. If user change it to 5, we just the length will be 5. Remember we saved this length in animation properties here. Animation type, it's an integer here. All right. So animation properties dot animation time, I guess. Okay. So 5 seconds. This basically will be 5 seconds, and then we can multiply by this frame rate, and then it'll just return how many frames does it take to move to here. We'll call it this one total frames length multiplied by data from here. If you not sure how to get this frame rate, we can just right click. Oh, this one is not possible to get it, right? Wait a second. Okay, Shift Control C. That's the shortcut. We'll move it here. Shift Control C. We'll see what do we get here. Nothing here. Okay, we just type in bpy.context.scene renderer FPS. Now we get the total frame. Well, each animation, they start in different location, right? Let's say if we started here, we want to add another animation. We don't want to start at the beginning of it, so we have to add the current frame. So we call it end frame. We calculate end frame. End frame basically just here. The seconds, the animation time multiplied by this and here. End frame equals bpy context scene.frame current plus total frames. This will work. Okay. Now we're still gonna do things like this because we will add another keyframe, insert another keyframe here. Let's copy this, this time it's not the current frame, right? This keyframe insert takes two, at least one, right? But you can add another parameter called the frame, which frame you want to insert a keyframe. Now we would just insert a keyframe here. We'll add another parameter, frame equal to end frame here. All right, the translation animation keyframe is done. Let's copy paste. We'll add another one. This time we'll call it rotation. Remember to change data path. Now we'll add scale as well. Of course, we're going to have to check if user enables scale again. Just add another parameter. So after we insert the last keyframe, I think the animation is almost done, but we have to check one more attribute, one more boolean, this one last frame. If we check this, we will move the current frame to this one, so we can continue to move to add again another animation. Okay, let's check it. We will move with this function context scene frame set end frame. Simply move to this end frame here. And since we user selected two objects to create this animation, after you generate animation, it still has two selected objects. You cannot just generate animation selected again. We want to deselect everything here. Loop in selected objects and basically we deselect everything. Now we select object 1. Now I think our operator is done here. Now let's change, let's add our panel here. Let's add our panel here. First thing first, we're going to still import BPY, a class. We'll call it test add-on. You must have the same name as your operator here. Oh, here, test add-on. Before this underscore OT underscore, oh, excuse me. The same as operator, this underscore PT underscore in panel is a must. I think this has something to do with a automatically processing in Blender internal. If you name this object with underscore PT underscore, Blender will know this class is a panel. All right, let's change name to test add-on panel. Label, still gonna change to add-on panel. panel 2, category, we'll call it test add-on, space type. Space type is basically where do you want your add-on to show. We will put it in view 3D. Type. Region type, we'll change it to a UI. Now, unlike operator, it has an execute function. We put a draw in panel. Layout, we will change to self.layout so we don't have to type later. We're going to use self.layout to add a lot of properties to the panel. Now we're going to get our properties. Remember, how do we get it? Inside the operator, we just simply copy here. Copy it, put it here. Now we can use layout prop, a property that we want to show in our panel. Animation properties. From animation properties, and the properties called animation time. This must be the same as your property group. Property group here is the same animation time. All right, we're gonna have another property here. Let's add a separator here. Now we'll add another property here. Still from animation properties. It's called enable location, I guess. Oh, I'm sorry, enable translate. If you don't remember, you can always go back to check it, enable translate, or you can just copy paste. And let's copy paste. Enable rotation here. And another one here. Enable scale. Oh, we have one more. It's called last frame. Now I guess we're done. Oh, excuse me. Let's add our operator. Now we just add these properties that we can change with these 4 here. We have to add this button here to actually execute our operator. Again, let's add a separator here. A separator, it just add a little extra space around here. Okay. We'll add a operator in row. We'll get the layout row operator. We will call it view 3D test add-on. We'll just call it add animation. This view 3D animation here just will be the same will be the same as this one. Let me make sure of that. Okay, we have to change. We have to turn it to. We have to change this operator into the same as this operator here. Now we're going to change this operator name to the same so that the panel will know which operator we want to add it here. Okay, let's add the text. What do we show here? What do we show here? We'll call it generate animation. We'll call it generate animation. Now this is done. The last part I wanted to is called init. Basically, this file initialize our add-on here. The first thing we're going to add is called BL info equal. It's our add-on's information here. Name of this add-on is, we'll call it test add-on. Author, we'll change it to Rick. Description, we'll change it to a test add-on. And Blender, basically we put a version here, the minimum version of this add-on requires, I guess. And then location, where does this add-on show? We will put it in view 3D. Warning, test only. Category, I'm not sure which category we want. We just put a generic here. Now this is done, and we have to register our add-on here. First thing first, we're going to import BPY. Let's import our test add-on panel here from current directory. Basically, this dot means we import from this directory, from this init file directory. We import these two here. What is the name of it? Test add-on OP. We'll import that operator. It's called a test add-on OT operator. I guess it's this. Yep. And then remember, in this operator, we have a attribute property group. Sorry, we have to import this too, like this. And then we will import the panel as well. Great. Now in initialize init.py will have a register. Basically, it registers our class to Blender, so Blender can access our operator and panel stuff. Utility register class. The first thing we want to register is our animation properties, since our operator and panel uses this animation properties. Next, we will register our operator. test OT operator, and then our panel. All right, these three, I guess it's enough. But since this animation properties, the Blender only knows this type of animation properties that has stuff like this, but we have to have at least one property registered in our scene. In order to do that, we have to save one of this instance in our scene. In order to do that, we can use a pointer property and to register in our scene. Let's import this type first. Pointer property. Good. So let's save it in our scene. Pointer property type. What kind of a pointer property? Animation properties. Now, if we do this animation properties, we can simply access from scene like this in our operator. This is why we can call this type of function when the scene initialized, scene animation properties. We can call it as well as in our panel here. This is the type, this is the way that we can do that. All right, now let's unregister it. Simply we can copy this part and paste it here and turn this to unregistered class. And don't forget the last one, we will delete our animation properties from our scene. Like this. And then if name underscore man equals to underscore man, oh, excuse me, and then we will execute register. Now before we install our add-on, I got a couple of typos around here and there. We're gonna fix it. The first one is that we need a comma around here. I forgot it. And the next part is that let's see, in our operator, this int property and bow property, we need to import it so that we can use it from bpy.props import int property, comma, bow property. And another one we need to fix is that here, scene is not really working here. We needed to call it context.scene or bpy.context.scene here. And animation properties. We also need to do this in the panel here. Or maybe I can just use this as well, but we will leave it here like that. Okay, now this should work. Oh, one more thing I needed to change is that I accidentally add the colon at the end of this line, which we don't need, and here too, as well as here. Let's fix it. Now, one last mistake I got it here is from test addon operator.py. We're going to change this to obj and then save it. Alright, I think I fixed all the mistakes. Let's go to this directory let's open it. It has 3 Python files in it. Basically, we're going to turn this directory into a zip file. You can use any programs that can do that. I'm using 7-zip. Add it to test addon.zip. An addon basically just a zip file. So let's put it here, and we are gonna go to Blender, edit preferences. Let's install it. Test addon, enable it. Good, everything seems fine. Let's hit N. Oh, our addon shows here perfectly. Let's select this object. Let's see, I wanted to shift select the light, generate animation. I think it works, right? Moves there in 5 seconds. Alright, so one last thing I want to talk about is that what if we make any mistakes and how to debug that. Let's delete our add-ons here, and let's quit Blender. We're gonna delete this. Let's make a obvious mistake in the let's say in a panel we made mistakes. Let's say we call it scene dot animation properties, which we cannot just directly call scenes because there's no such variable here. All right, let's save it and add test addon zip. Let's go to Blender. Gonna install it again. Blender add-on. Enable it. See, it has no arrow. At least now. Now let's hit N. Test add-on. As you can see, our panel is not showing. If we made that mistake, if we don't know there's a mistake here, how do we it's not working now. How do we debug? Let's go to Window, toggle System Console, and you can see a lot of arrows here, and shows me that name arrow name scene is not defined. Which file? In test addon panel file, which is this file that we made a mistake here. Let's go change it back, save it, and then you reinstall it, and then it works perfectly. I'm not going to do that again. You can try it by yourself. That's it for today's tutorial. Thank you for your time. I'll see you next time.